We will begin this morning with our mayoral forum with the candidates' statement of their vision for the city of Paducah, followed by questions from members of our business panel that are seated here in the front. Following the conclusion of the business panel segment, then I will present to the candidates questions that have been submitted from our chamber membership and selected to be presented to the candidates this morning. Each candidate will have 1 minute for response. They'll be given a 15-second warning, and then, if necessary, I will interrupt them. Members of the business panel will then have 30 seconds to present their questions to each of the candidates, followed by the candidate's response. And if, as I said, even if a member of the business panel runs long on their question, I will also interrupt them. Anyone have any questions? Commissioner Coleman or Mayor Paxton about the process for this morning? If not, we will begin with the candidates' visions for the city of Paducah. And this is a statement by them of their vision for the city 20 years from today, and stating along with that 3 action steps that they would take to achieve their vision. What we have decided to do is for the vision statements, we are going to go in alphabetical order, and then when we have the closing statements at the end of the program, we will reverse that order. So Mr. Coleman, at this time, you have 1 minute to state your vision for the city of Paducah and the 3 action steps you intend to achieve it.
Thank you, Sonny, and thanks to the Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity. I'll open my remarks by simply stating that this nation is in the midst of a revolution, information-based technology revolution, and our jobs as elected officials is to make sure that our communities fit in with what is happening on a broad basis and across this nation and across the world. We're in what is called a global society. What I want to do as an elected official and elected as your next mayor is to bring Paducah right into the midst of what is going on, and that is in terms of specific areas, in terms of economic development, in terms of quality of life, in terms of education. We recently received a study from the Chamber of Commerce that indicates something that needs to be considered, and that is merged governance. And so with the experience that I have and the time that I have served in government, the knowledge that I have, I expect to bring this community with some changes into this technology-based revolution. I have some definite ideas, and before this...
I'm sorry, Mr. Coleman, your time is up.
Thank you so much.
Just as a reminder that that 1 minute does go by pretty fast once you're up here and start talking. Mr. Paxton, would you now state your vision for the city?
I believe Paducah will be a leader in the energy field in Kentucky in the future with the clean coal to diesel technology, with our potential in the nuclear area. I feel like we will continue our reputation as capital of the inland waterways by continuing to recruit river industries for this area. I believe that we'll be a leader in education with Mid-Continent, Murray State, Paducah School for the Arts, the new accredited School of Law, West Kentucky Community Technical College, and the new technology building. We will be a leader in that area, and I believe we'll be merged government within 20 years. That is something that will help us create jobs. It will help lead this community forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Paxton. The next segment now will be a group of questions that will be presented to our candidates by the business panel that I introduced to you previously. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each of their questions. Mr. Scott Powell from U.S. Bank won the random draw this morning prior to the beginning of the forum, so he has the first question, and I will ask him to direct that first question to, first of all, Mr. Coleman, who will have 1 minute to respond, and then Mr. Paxton will have 1 minute for his rebuttal.
Commissioner Coleman, good morning.
Good morning, Scott.
In your brief remarks, you mentioned this issue of consolidation of Paducah and McCracken County. I know there's been a task force recently that has done a lot of research in that area to determine the merits of unified government. What is your position with respect to unifying the city and the county, and why do you have that position?
I've been sensitive to this issue going back about 10 or 15 years. I was in northern Kentucky at a Kentucky League of Cities convention, and I noticed each time that they would speak about the area, they never would speak of the city in which we were located. It was always northern Kentucky. And I subsequently found out that the reason that is referred to in that manner is that areas, larger areas, like northern Kentucky, are better positioned to acquire business and industry than small communities. And so it's already a proven fact that larger communities, merged communities, are noticed more readily than small communities when it comes to economic development. The federal programs are designed for communities of 50,000 or more. It is absolutely necessary that we educate the public and prepare them for this venture. I support it.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Now, we are ready for Mr. Paxton's response.
I also support metro government. I think every city I've spoken with who is doing metro government has said it was the best thing that ever happened to them. We wish we had done it sooner. I commend the chamber for what they're doing. I think the task force is exactly the right way to go. If this is going to happen, it has to go before a referendum. And the people are going to have to be educated. And we're not there yet. So the task force should be appointed. The city has voted for it. The county is in the process of it. And we move forward, educate the public, and then ask for a referendum. It's something that will help us in economic development. It will help us in speaking with one voice even better. It will help our education concerns. So it is the right way to go. In my vision statement, I said it will happen within 20 years, and I feel like that's the case. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paxton. Our second question this morning will be presented by Deborah Edmonds, and at this time, I'll yield the floor to Ms. Edmonds.
Mr. Coleman, economic growth is the heartbeat of any city. What would you do to create a positive economic atmosphere where existing business and industry can afford to stay and grow, and new businesses are attracted?
A few years ago, when Mayor Albert Jones was serving as mayor of the city of Paducah, when we were in the closing stages of attempting to recruit the Links facility to Paducah, a small strategic team was put together to travel to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to meet with some officials of PPG, the parent company of Links. There were about 5 people: the county judge, the mayor, the director of economic development, a member of the state cabinet of economic development. We traveled to Pittsburgh, and we met with the officials there concerning locating Links in Paducah. I would put together a permanent community response team that would go after businesses, not sit and wait for businesses to come to a location, but go after these businesses with a community development response team to attempt to bring these businesses in your community. Nobody's sitting around waiting to come to your community. You have to go out and recruit them and bring them in.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Mr. Paxton, your response.
We have had some success over the last 8 years with economic development, but we need to do more. GPEDC has been very active, and we have prospects, and we're going to continue to work hard in that. We need to do both. We need to create new jobs for our young people, and we need to expand the businesses that we have. We're creating incentives to pay for existing businesses to allow them to expand. That has been a priority over the last 2 years. So this is difficult work. There are lots of communities throughout the country that are trying to do the same thing we're doing, but I think we're on the right track, and we will continue to work hard to bring in good paying jobs like the clean coal to diesel, like new companies in the river industry, and create the kind of jobs that this community needs for our young people in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paxton. Our third question will be presented by Mr. Mark Mayfield.
Gentlemen, and it's already been partially answered. Over the last 3 years, we've had 9 either inland river towing companies or towboat operators either relocate or invest significantly in the Paducah area. And recently, the U.S. Coast Guard out of New Orleans has announced that Paducah will probably become a center of excellence for the inland river towing industry, which will bring more civilian and more military positions here to Paducah. The mayor is correct in calling us possibly a hub of the inland waterways. I'm not sure we're the capital of the inland waterways, but we're close. And my question then becomes, what is the strategic plan, or what is the business plan, not only to attract more companies, because we have a 10th company that's already looking at constructing a new building here, but what about the support industries like Petters and Paducah Rigging, fabricating companies, marine suppliers, groceries, all these types of things? I think there's a real need to look at the infrastructure for the industry, not just the industry.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Your response?
Well, we have 2 interstate systems here. It's been referred to a 2-highway system. One is Interstate 24, and the second is the inland waterways. They're vital to our area. We would have to continue to create incentives for these industries. We would have to amplify our efforts towards being business friendly, and I do mean business friendly. Our workforce needs to be educated. 100 years ago, when the Industrial Revolution occurred, 80% of the people had a high school education or less. In the new technology and in the information age technology, 80% of the people will have to have educations above high school. So we'll have to have a cooperation with education. We'll have to give incentives. We will have to encourage the inland waterways industries by the positive things and let them know that we are absolutely business friendly in this community.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Mr. Paxton, your response.
The river industry is huge in Paducah. We have had more success in the river industry than we have in any other industry. There's probably 5,000 people working directly in the river industry in this area. Probably another 3,000 to 4,000 indirect. So it is huge. Mr. Mayfield's right. There is another company that could announce momentarily to come to Paducah. So we're having some successes with the corporations, but a big possibility is the companies like the machine shops, more lawyers, more infrastructure to help us be the capital of the inland waterway. We're close. We need to continue to work at it. We don't need to take it for granted. We need to work with the companies that are already here and get their support to bring more companies here. It is something that can be done, and I intend to work hard on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paxton. Our fourth question this morning will be presented by Scott Powell.
Gentlemen, you both mentioned favorable remarks on the unification of Paducah and McCracken County, but until such time that were to happen, and being good stewards of our taxpayer dollars, what additional services could you envision in the future that could be, in a collaborative effort with the county, be brought together to save money for our community?
Thank you. Mr. Coleman, your response?
One of the factors in merged government is economics and saving money. What we need to do as we continue towards this and continue the process of educating the public is to continue to merge the services where we can. And when we merge these services that are given by both city government and county government, merge the services so we can save money. That's the primary factor, saving the money. And in the process, we need to make the public aware of what we are doing and how these savings are occurring, and that it is absolutely necessary in the future, as it has been in the past, that government be frugal with the taxpayers' money, that they make the taxpayers aware of what we're doing, and we must always focus on how we can save money, reduce the expenditures, and still have efficient services. That's the important thing, efficient services and saving the taxpayers' money.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Mr. Paxton.
Excuse me, you're right, Mr. Powell. You can't sit and wait for metro government. You've got to be proactive. The city and county has already undertaken The Joint Sewer Agency, which is a combined city-county agency, it is working with a great deal of success. The library is a joint city venture. We're having lots of luck with that. So there are many other ways that we can work together. Judge Newberry and his predecessor, Judge Orzine, we've talked about many things. Maybe our planning departments could work together. There are lots of different areas, and we just have to sit down, the city and the county, the commissions, and try to decide where we can work together. Let's do that and continue to try, like Mr. Coleman says, save as much money as we can until the merged governments actually happen.
Thank you. Our next question will be presented by Deborah Edmonds.
Both candidates have touched on schooling, education, and a workforce. What resources and services beyond academics do you believe the schools and the community should provide to support students' well-being and achievement? Would you be willing to use your influence as mayor to support such programs, and how?
I'm active in the National League of Cities. That's the umbrella organization for cities across America. One of the programs under that umbrella is education. The National League of Cities has numerous of programs that help communities with local officials participating in the education process. No one elected have all these answers, no single individual. I would go to the National League of Cities, look into their portfolios in terms of what they have for communities across this country that will improve the education process. I'm very familiar with the National League of Cities. I work on one of the committees, Energy, Environment, and Natural Resources, that have inputs on our nuclear facility, that have inputs on the production of Kentucky coal, and they also have programs related to education. I would get ideas from the National League of Cities, who have a library of ideas that would help us improve our education working with the elected officials. That's the resource I would use.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Mr. Paxton, your response?
The education is important. We all agree to that. But there also has to be training. And I don't throw training into the same category as education. GPEDC and West Kentucky Community and Technical College have worked together to build the technology building out at the college. That is a mechanism with which we will send high school graduates to the technology school, and they will be trained for our businesses and our corporations that are located here. We have to have a trained workforce. Now, the mayor's office has very little to do with secondary education. That is handled by the superintendent of the schools and their boards. But we can make sure that our workforce is trained, and the technology building is going to do that, and is probably one of the best things that's happened to Paducah in a long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paxton. At this point in the program, I'm going to exercise a little moderator's discretion, and we're going to reverse the order now so that the questions will be answered first by Mr. Paxton, followed by Mr. Coleman. And the next question comes from Mark Mayfield.
Mayor, the inland waterways industry faces significant increasing regulation through the Department of Homeland Security, Transportation Safety Administration, and the enforcement arm for these agencies, Coast Guard. And these regulatory demands arrive at a time when recruitment of towboat personnel is extremely difficult. In addition to that, if you look at the Olmsted Lock project below Paducah and the Kentucky Lock project above Paducah, the Army Corps of Engineers program is extremely underfunded. My question then is can you give me a strategic plan or a commitment that you would work with these inland river industry companies in here to establish a contact with Congressman Whitfield, Senators McConnell and Bunning, either through national organizations or through the companies here, to work more closely with us on attempting to resolve some of these very serious issues, such as recruitment of personnel and regulatory issues, funding for the Corps of Engineers. These are jobs that are just going away from Paducah because the funding is not there.
As far as the recruitment goes, that is a serious problem. The marine industry needs to look at this as a career and not just as a job. We have been working again with West Kentucky Community and Technical College on how we can train deckhands. We've been working with Siemens Institute on how they can take their training of their captains and bring it down to the deckhand level. So both of those entities are coming up with a plan. Obviously, we go to Washington a couple times a year, meet with Senator McConnell, Whitfield, Bunning, and ask them to keep the river industry and support them financially to the best of their ability. We also talk to Governor Beshears in his administration. We work closely with Governor Fletcher in his administration on trying to get less regulation, try to support the river industry so they can be as vibrant and profitable as possible.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman, your response.
Well, we need to know some history. This city began as a river town. It began at the foot of Broadway and then moved westward. In terms of what we need to do more lobbying to Congress, the Congress of the United States. I've been traveling to Washington for 3-4 decades, since the 70s. And I am aware of how to lobby, how to make the contacts. I'm active in the National League of Cities. Each spring, we have what is called a cities conference in Washington, D.C., where we are introduced to legislature, and also we are given information and pointers on how to lobby our Congress people for different issues. I've been doing this for quite a few years, so I would utilize this experience, this training, to lobby our Congress people for the benefits of the river industry, which is vital to this community and has been from the very beginning because it's the founding basis of our city, the river industry. Naturally, we will keep the training and education up, but I think I'm very good at the process of lobbying.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Our next question comes from Scott Powell.
Mayor Paxton, I think you would agree with me and that we are all very proud of what Paducah has accomplished over the last 10 years and would probably also agree that a lot of that is attributed to a lot of our downtown redevelopment activities. Being reelected mayor, what initiatives would you like to see further to help the downtown area in continuing this effort?
Well, obviously the new riverfront is huge. We've received $10 million for the first phase of the riverfront, and that will start construction in the spring. Obviously, the River Heritage Museum and their $35 million addition is going to be huge for Paducah. We're trying to get the Executive Inn up and running again and our convention center back. So people are milling in Paducah, downtown Paducah, and into Lower Town. We want Paducah to be vibrant. We want businesses like Hooper's to come downtown. The city of Paducah has initiated an incentive program to give to Hooper's, to give to Argentinian Grill, to give the businesses that are willing to come down, make an investment in Paducah, and make downtown Paducah vibrant. So there are many, many things going on. The Paducah School of Arts is downtown, getting ready to move to Lower Town. So we're going to continue to concentrate on downtown Paducah and make it as vibrant as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Paxton. Mr. Coleman, your response.
The steps for continuing improvement in downtown Paducah are already in place. We have the plans for the riverfront improvement. Condominiums are being built and constructed on the riverfront. Downtown in Paducah, Kentucky is better than a majority of cities of this size across this nation. So we will continue those efforts. And we will resolve this problem with the Executive Inn. The commissioners have not been involved in this process as much as possible. And I will say this at this time, basically information the commission gets is information after the fact. We have not been able to sit in and observe and listen to what is going on. And I think we could be more helpful if we were involved in that way. But downtown Paducah is on the move. All you have to do is visit some downtowns across this country, and you'll find that we have one of the best downtowns going, and we can continue in that process, and we will continue in that process.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Our next question will be presented by Deborah Edmonds.
Well, both of you just touched a little bit on downtown and on the quilt show, and I understand that there have been some positive changes over the last couple of days. And the quilt show has been a blessing for Paducah in terms of tourism and business, and we hope it will continue to be. But what, if any, plans do you have as mayor to seek more festivals or conventions for Paducah that would offset any economic loss of the quilt show?
One thing we're going to have to do is improve our image with reference to the recent publicity regarding the executive end. We're going to have to resolve that problem and bring us back into a more positive light in terms of conventions and meetings here in Paducah, because the kind of information and the publicity that we've been bombarded with from day to day have only had a negative impact on our community. We have a good community. I was recently at a festival in Plano, Texas called the Balloon Festival. And one of the ideas I observed down there is every participant in that visit, about 80,000 people into that city, they had a badge and it had the name of the festival, but the important thing was it had big bold letters, VIP. Every person visiting that city, 80,000 of them visitors, had that badge said VIP. They felt great. I had one myself. I brought one back with me. We will do things like that that may seem small,
Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
but they make people happy about our city.
I've just been shown the sign that we have 15 seconds left in this segment of our program, so we will we'll go ahead and move along into the submitted questions now at this point, since we don't have enough time for our business panel to submit another question. But I would ask that our business panel just remain seated there until we get to the conclusion of the program. What I am going to do is present to the candidates a question that has been submitted by members of our chamber, and ask for each candidate to respond just as they did during the business panel segment. First question and the first candidate to respond will be Mr. Paxton. With the city supporting GPEDC, Entree Paducah, Alpha Project, and the Innovation and Commercialization Center, please explain your vision on how they will all work together to bring economic development opportunities to Paducah and McCracken County.
I think you have to try every possible way to bring jobs into this community. And we're doing that. As they said, GPEDC, Entre Paducah, the Innovative Technology Center. There is also the task force that the judge and I chair out at the USEC plant to look at nuclear initiatives to bring jobs out there. So I think we're covering every single base to try to bring good paying jobs into this community. Now, how are those people going to work together? That is going to be a challenge. We're funding a lot of different organizations, and we're going to have to talk about this once Entre Paducah is set up and is running. We're going to have to work a way where they can work together, they can help each other, and they can work together to try to move Paducah forward. If that doesn't happen, we're throwing our money away.
Thank you, Mr. Paxton. Mr. Coleman, your response.
Likewise, I mentioned previously a community response team. With all of these organizations that have just been mentioned here, we cannot use all of these people simultaneously. So what I would do is, from these organizations, select key people who know the mission of each organization, bring them together as a response team. Likewise, as I said before, we would form a community response team to actively go out when we're in the mix, when we are close to recruiting an industry, when we are one of the finalists. We would send a community response team out to visit these communities or businesses that want to come into our community and carry our message to them, a factual message to them about why they should come to Paducah, and have this in-house community response team of these various organizations. You get too many voices, you muddle yourself. So I'd have a community response team from these various organizations.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Our next question is as follows. The current administration has supported traditional economic development activities with great cost and less than desired results. What changes do you propose to focus more on existing industries and entrepreneurial development? And the first candidate to respond will be Mr. Coleman.
When I was working for the Postal Service, I got an assignment once. It was in the early days of express mail. And the postmaster called me and he said, "Bob, I want you to take over an assignment. I want you to visit businesses in our community and try to market express mail." I said, "You think I can handle it?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "You talk a lot. Go out there and do it."
That was true.
So I would go to businesses and I would give them a business card and tell them what I wanted to talk about. And they would say to me, wait a minute. You say you're from the post office?" I said, "Yes, I am." "Hey, look, there are some things I want to talk about. Can I talk to you?" I said, "Yes." And so what I found out is the Postal Service needed a good PR person visiting people out there in the community and explaining things to them and letting them know that we are a friendly business. That's what we need. We need a good PR person going out to businesses, telling businesses what we're all about, giving them the positive side, and finding out what they want. Continually, we need to do this kind of effort.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Mr. Paxton?
You're right. We are not bringing in the number of jobs that I wanted or that you wanted, and I realize that. But I think this concept of GPEDC is correct. If the clean coal to diesel fuel happens, it will happen strictly because of Greater Paducah Economic Development, Wayne Sterling and George Harbin and Rex Smith. So we're doing a lot of good things. We just need to do better. We need to have a few more successes. At the last campaign, when we went out and raised the $5.2 million for economic development, we heard the people say, instead of sending all the money to recruit new businesses, help our local businesses. And we're working hard at that. Hopefully the people that are trying to expand here or start new businesses are being helped. If you're not, please let me know and I will correct that, because GPEDC's mission is to help the existing businesses as well as recruit new ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paxton. Our third question that has been submitted, and Mr. Paxton, you'll be first to respond to this question, is do you favor or oppose changing the city business license fee structure from the current gross receipts tax to a net profits tax? And please state your reasons for your position.
We have been discussing that thoroughly. We had our finance person, Jonathan Perkins, come before the commission and talk about it. It is not an easy topic. You can change it from one to the other. Some people are going to be helped by that, but a whole group of people are going to be hurt by it. And we're not going to know necessarily who's going to be hurt until after it's already done. So it needs to be carefully considered. We are hoping, and we've told Jonathan Perkins, to look at ways that we can fine-tune the product that we have and see if that won't help some of the people. Frankly, I'm against changing it. I think it is serving our city correctly the way it is. And right now, I would like to fine-tune it, but not change it.
Thank you, Mr. Paxton. Mr. Coleman, your response to that question.
The lifeblood of any community is money. It's like anything else. There have been some good points made on the gross receipts tax. There's been some good points made on the net profits tax. I have not had access to the final figures on these. I would like to have some additional information. Right now, I'm reluctant to make that change until I see additional information in terms of the projected income from each one of these. And knowing the projected income and how vital it is that we not have less money in the community, although we want to efficiently use what we do get. I like to base my decisions on facts. So I would hesitate at this point until I get additional information to make that decision.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. And you'll be the first to respond to this next question, which is, the current role of the mayor and city commission has been to set policy for the city and to serve as an oversight body. Do you feel that the mayor and city commission's responsibilities should continue in this manner, or do you feel that they should take a more active role in the day-to-day operations, such as the hiring and firing of employees? Please state your reasons for your response.
Every year, I purchase a book from the Kentucky League of Cities. It's called Public Officials Legal Resource Guide. Governments are not governed by ideas and opinions in terms of responsibilities. Cities in Kentucky, the responsibilities of elected officials are governed by statute. And cities like Paducah, cities of the second class with the city manager commission form of government, the statutes are very clear. The mayor and commissioners work as a unit. The mayor is considered part of the commission. They set policies. The statute says they shall. It don't say they may. It says they shall do the hiring and the firing in government. So what we need to do is look at the statutes and see what the law says. We're always saying we are a nation of laws. Well, look at the statutes and see what the responsibilities of cities of the second class with the city manager commission form of government, and go by the law.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Mr. Paxton, your response.
I'm very pleased with the way the city commission and the mayor are operating. We have a first-class city manager. He is the CEO of the city. He in turn goes out and hires department heads. They in turn hire their people. The city commission has the final say once it's brought to the city commission. Do I know what makes a good police officer? Do I know who makes a good fireman? Absolutely not. I don't want to know. I don't want to hire my cousins, my relatives. I want it to be objective, and I want good, qualified people like the city manager, department heads, to make those decisions and let the city commission approve it at the back end. So I think we're operating the right way, and this has been something that Commissioner Coleman and I have not seen eye to eye on. Thank you.
That's because I want to go by the law.
Thank you, Mr. Paxton. It worked out perfectly because I got
That's a good thing.
the sign for the end of Mr. Paxton's response. At the same time, I got the sign for the end of this segment of our program. So it worked out perfect on our timing. The final thing that we're going to do this morning is give each candidate an opportunity to present their closing statement. And this will be in the reverse order of the vision statements that they gave to open our program. So our first closing statement will be presented by Mr. Paxton.
This will be my last campaign. I'm going to serve the next 4 years if elected, and I'm going to retire. We have made great progress over the last 8 years, both in quality of life issues and in economic development issues. But there is more to do. I want to see the completion of the Riverfront project. I want to see the signing of the Clean Coal to Diesel Fuel project. I want to see more river industries come into Paducah. I want to see the Paducah School of Art open, operating. I want to see the Berkeley School of Law being accredited. There are many, many more things to do over the next 4 years. I think I am the leader to do that, and I appreciate your vote on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paxton. Mr. Coleman, your closing statement.
I'm going to use my years of service to our community. On a national level, I serve on the Energy, Environment, and Natural Resources Committee of the National League of Cities. That's about a 35-member committee that deals with the nuclear facility out here, that deals with Kentucky coal and energy issues affecting our everyday lives. I will, using my experience, make sure that Paducah is treated fair in terms of these two primary main industries. Not only do I want to see things happen here in our city, I have changes that I'm going to recommend be made, and I'm going to work actively to see that these changes are made. Government is governed by statutes, not by opinions. There are statutes that govern the way cities of the second class with the mayor, manager, commission form of government. And I want to see our city conducted according to the law. I think one issue, and the mayor mentioned it, we disagree on some things. But I will actively and give you a guarantee that I will be working tirelessly to make sure that this city moves with the new information-based technology revolution that we're in.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Your time's up. Let's give both these gentlemen a round of applause.